Hey, Schultzy, two ordinary cops are back. How are you, mate?
Yeah, mate, going pretty well at the moment. It's getting a bit colder here. I think we got a top of 18, but I'll bet you that's nothing compared to what you're facing at the moment.
Mate, I'm in Lismore. It's fine. Yeah, it's a little bit cool. No, it's all good. We're here 2 weeks, so I'll be in Lismore again next week. Bit of firefighter, and then the full suite. We're going first aid, chainsaw, and four-wheel drive training next week, so that should all be pretty good.
Yeah,
No, I'm in Lismore, but it's bloody cold in Hernani. It's -2. We got a flurry of snow the other day, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, all's
yeah.
well, mate. We're back into it.
Well, oh, yeah, mate. I actually saw a bit of snow up at Armidale, was it?
Gyra Glen Innes, I think it was. They got a fair bit, or they got a
Yeah,
bit. Yeah, no, proper cold, proper cold.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
like me, mate. You see me rugged up at the moment, but it's nothing compared to that. That's for sure.
Oh, we got nothing on the territory. 34 and sunny.
Mate,
Yeah.
if it gets down to 20 degrees there, they're gone into Antarctic conditions.
Well, an interesting thing about the Northern Territory: when the temperature hits 27 degrees, caravans grow out of the Stuart Highway.
Yeah.
I swear to God, they just appear,
uh,
and thousands of them.
yes.
Uh, yes. What are
Oh,
we?
yeah.
What are we on to, mate? What's going on?
Well, mate, we've got a few things to discuss tonight, but first off, I'll just do a couple of shout outs. First one, Adam Russell. Good old Adam Russell.
Oh,
We
Rusty.
worked with him in Catherine, and then I think he went out to, he worked in Family and Domestic Violence Unit. He was in charge of that for a bit, and then he went out to Pelly or Gumbalanya, as
Yep.
it's some people call it. And he was out there for quite a while, for memory,
Yeah, I
3
reckon he
years.
was there a few years. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was excellent. We were really junior when he turned up. He was one of those transitional entry really early in the piece
yep.
from Victoria. Ex Vic Pol came up there, and yeah, he was great. He settled straight into the
Oh,
territory. He was brilliant, and he was a very good copper. He was even though really early on he didn't really know the systems because computer systems differ all over the place, but his street cop ability was excellent.
oh,
So yeah,
yeah.
we all got along really well basically straight away. As soon as he turned up, he was really good.
He was outstanding, mate. I remember. I think it was one of his first shifts, if not his first shift, and they said, "Oh, Schultzy, do you want to just take Adam around, show him around, Catherine, and show him all the hot spots and all that sort of thing." Anyway, we got a call for a very annoying local that always calls up and complains about her boyfriend because there was a non-contact DVO while intox, and he was at the Catherine Hotel first, and she's rocked up there and decided to call us because she got the shits with him.
Yeah,
then, so anyway, we're going. Oh yeah, we know this one really well. So I went in there, and she's already couple of drinks deep, or quite a few drink by the time she actually deep before she contacted police. Anyway, I've walked in there, and I've gone to speak to her, and she goes, "Oh, he's in the other." So he's in the complete other room. No interaction whatsoever. I spoke to a few people. I hadn't even spoken. She just got the shit that he was there drinking, and so was she. So, but she rocked up there after he was there. So anyway, I said, well, put your drink away. You come with us. She goes, what? I said, you're on arrest. You're going for protective custody. Anyway, Adam kind of looks at me and goes, is that how you do it here? And I said, that's how we do it with this one. Because I
yeah,
said, otherwise, I said, if we didn't put her, she's already drunk enough to go away. But I said, if we didn't, we would get calls constantly. And I said, I cannot stand the way she actually uses DVOs to pick on a husband when it suits her. So
yeah,
it's just one
yeah.
of those things.
Plenty of that went on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
but no,
yeah,
mate, he was excellent, and he did very well in the family and domestic violence unit. There, we held him out a couple of times when we were working general duties in arresting high profile offenders for domestic violence. So yeah, top bloke.
yeah. He was good, old Rusty. Haven't seen
He
him for
is.
years.
Yeah, yeah. And mate, Thomas Shepherd got in contact. He said, "Hey fellas, he just asked if we've done a podcast dealing on protesters. He said, keen to hear if we had any interface with Pine Gap or even though I understand it's got its own security. And I said back, I said, look, the only one I can really remember, and unless you can remember something else, was Bob Rennie spoke about Jabaluka, about the
Yeah.
protests there. But that's probably that you're probably going to get more insight about protests from that than you are from us, I think.
Yeah, I personally didn't have a lot to do with protests. I was the officer in charge when some COVID stuff went on, but I mean, there was a few crooks intermingled with that as well, but it wasn't as major as it was as interstate. I mean, I had a bit to do with protesting in Tennant Creek, but that dissolved pretty quickly because people were trying to antagonise us, and they were imports. They were all from down south, and the local Aboriginal population were our friends. So we just, hello, Bunny, how are you, my darling? And that was all the end of that. So there was no problem there. When it comes to Pine Gap, I worked in Alice, as you know, I've said before, for like 2 years, and I never had anything to do with Pine Gap. The only thing I do know about Pine Gap is it must have incredible gardens, because anyone who you spoke to who was American or who you knew had some association with it, if you said, "Oh, so what do you do out there?" I'm a gardener. So there was no, yeah, it was, what sort of garden do you analyse? So it was, it was, and that's fine. That's the whole idea of it. But no, there was no real issue with Pine Gap. It just sort of was a non-event. It was self-contained and pretty low key.
Yeah.
In Alice. But yeah, so I haven't had a hell of a lot to do with protests, and it's, I mean, the stuff going on in the States is riots at the moment.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I've never dealt with rioting. Oh, I mean, I have in communities. Look, I've dealt with communities rioting against each other, but that was just
Not really
a lot of
protests.
alcohol-fueled violence. Really, it
Yeah,
wasn't really political. It was just madness. So.
yeah. No, that's exactly right. I think the only one early on in the piece we got, they were supposed to protest against the MacArthur River mine out at Borroloola. And we got sent out there from Catherine at midnight, I think, one night to go down there. But nobody bothered protesting. We were out there for 3 days, got fed very well from the mine, got a heap of overtime, but they actually couldn't get themselves together to actually do a protest. So, so
Yeah.
it was a non-event. So I
Yeah.
can't really say I've got too much experience either.
No, it's not really a thing that happens a lot in the territory. You do get demonstrations, like you get, quite often those lawns out the front of the Alice Springs police station, as is happening now, and that leads in a bit to what we're going to have a little chat about today. But you
Yeah,
get a very peaceful demonstration out the front there, but there was no antagonisation of police or anything like that. There was no one trying to attack you, or a big raging protest with rolling problems. It was just people, politically motivated or motivated for an issue, and they would have their demonstration, and that was the end of that. There was generally no problems came from that. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, mate. But other than that, we'll move on to the next one, and it's something I read about today, and you also read about it. That they're going to bring in capsicum spray for civilians up in the territory, and I've got mixed feelings about it. However, it's something I learnt that I didn't actually know, that it's been brought in. I don't know if it's in trial in WA, or it's actually brought in consistently. But I wouldn't mind hearing from a couple of WA coppers to see if they've noticed anything, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Because I think both of us had a bit of a talk before we came onto the podcast, and we both got, I suppose, a bit of mixed feelings. You're probably a little bit more for it, and I'm probably maybe a little bit more against. But I think we're traveling on the same line of why we kind of sit on the fence with it.
Yeah, so I'm all about a fair bit of freedom, and I'm not against one bit people defending themselves. So the fact of the matter is, current crime trends, you get groups of youths quite often armed with knives and carrying on, and they'll carjack people, and this happens a lot in the Northern Territory. I had a lot to do with that. So I kind of don't like, I kind of really get the shits with that, because they just get this free reign and there's no consequence, and they're just dealing with victim after victim after victim. I kind of liked it when the victims bit back. I really like that. We'd be talking to someone who might have grabbed someone, not necessarily kids, grabbed someone who was breaking into their house and sort of had a blue with them and might have got a few punches in or something like that. And then they thought they were in trouble. We're like, you're not in trouble, mate. Not
Yeah,
one bit.
yeah,
Um, you are allowed to defend yourself. Like, it is
yeah,
a fundamental right that you're allowed to defend. No one's allowed to hurt you, attack you. And we're not political. I'm not going to get into firearms and all the rest. Whatever. I've got my view on it, and my view is irrelevant. The law is the law.
yeah,
So, but with this sort of thing, I don't completely mind. If my wife was filling up her car, in the evening at a service station, and all of a sudden she was surrounded by violent little kids or violent people who wanted to steal her car, I kind of like the fact that she could dish out a bit of pain and then drive off. it just creates a gap. It's not going to hurt them. It's just it stings for a while and then it goes away.
Yeah.
I think what we were thinking about straight away is, oh, well, crooks will get hold of it and they'll spray police and all this sort of stuff. Well, as we joked about as before, mate, I've swallowed so much of that stuff, it's not funny. You almost become immune to it. And it's like, what? That's all you got? So I think there needs to be a bit of legislative structure behind it. Like if you do use it against police, you are going to prison, full stop, do not pass go. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that there's a huge penalty for misuse of it. Because it's a debilitating, short-term debilitating weapon. That's why it was so effective for us. Because you'd have people throwing punches and even using low-end weapons either against each other or against you, and you just had the ability to go squirt, and that was the end. They just stop, and they couldn't fight through it most of the time. But yeah, there does have to be pretty stern, very strong penalties for misuse. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. I actually like the fact they get a bit of pain back. To me, that's not a bad idea. It might just deter, it might make them think twice before they just pick on innocent people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's my opinion.
I
think that one of them. I think it was I had nothing to do with the job, but I think I heard about it. I believe it was. I think it was Darwin. Some people broke into a house in Darwin in the middle of the night, and some soldiers were living there. It was like an but so similar to what my brother was living in when he was in Darwin. So it was a group house of young soldiers, and they grabbed these kids and detained them perfectly. And I was like, yeah, that's right. You bit the wrong dog, and you got bitten back. And I don't mind that. It's like you're lawless pieces of shit, and all of a sudden society bit back. You don't get to do this stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's my positive. But yeah, look, I'm also not stupid enough to realise that it can be misused. So that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, mate. I definitely agree with you there, and I do like it when basically crims get their ass handed to them.
Yeah, it's good.
There's no better punishment really. Yeah, mate. The only thing I just sit there and think of all these dickheads that have no brain whatsoever getting a hold of it and using it willy nilly. But like I said, mate, I think probably the best thing is WA. Cops from WA, just let us know what you think about it, whether you think it's worked, whether it's not. We'll keep you anonymous if you want. There's no harm there, but no better than proof in the pudding, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I'll be interested to hear how the trial's been going, and
Yeah,
whether they've had any incidents where civilians have used it for self-defense, have used it against somebody. So
yeah,
that'll be interesting to hear. I personally, as a copper, I loved pepper spray. It to me was a very excellent low-end use of force that immediately stopped problems.
yeah,
In City Safe, I used to have this little ceremony where I'd walk up. If there was an all-in brawl, we'd never run in. We'd just walk up, and I'd sort of lead. I'd have my guys. I'd say, "Look, hang back. We're going to walk forward. Everyone has a party pack, and I'm going to, in my voice only." And I'd walk up and I'd just yell out, "Police, pepper spray, break it up," as loud as I could. And 8 times out of 10, it did break up the bulk of it. And if
yep,
there were two combatants going at it, we just paint them yellow.
yeah,
It was
yep.
as simple as that. And then you just let it take effect. So you just spray them with it, and all it does is it's food grade. It's not going to cause long term damage.
No,
I mean, we'd eat it as much as they would. If you put a cloud of pepper spray and then walk into it, you're going to get dosed. And we just
yeah,
got dosed every time we used it, but we sort of got used to it, and it wasn't the end of the world. Made you
yeah,
eat hot chili food pretty easily. I'll give you the drum. But, anyway, we just walk through, and once they'd sort of given up the ghost and realised that their face was stinging, we grab hold of them. That was the end of that. So it was brilliant stuff. It caused so much de-escalation of physical violence that would actually have impact injuries, potential head injuries, all kinds of stuff to both perpetrators and police. So it was, in my view, it was a brilliant bit of kit, and remains a brilliant bit of kit. That pepper spray, it was really good stuff, and it originates from Canada as bear spray.
yeah,
That's where it all
yeah,
came from.
yep. It actually
Um,
works very well on attacking dogs as well.
oh
Um,
God, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It was brilliant for that. I didn't spray a lot of dogs, but there was a couple of times in communities we get big mob of camp dogs just having a crack, and
yeah,
just a little tiny spray in their general direction was enough to make them sneeze and run away,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
just back off. They go, "Oh, that's no good," and they'd leave you alone. Wouldn't hurt them. It just makes them back off.
Yeah, they didn't like it that much. Actually, I was working with Body one night, and we got a call from this dog attacking people just down the street. It was about, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night or something. This dog was very vicious, and what we didn't realise, we did realise a bit later on, but it had its owner that was asleep in a sleeping bag round behind behind some trees, and it just wouldn't let anybody, even if they came closer, to come out and attack him. And mate, to get in there to try and get that, he was obviously drunk and passed out. He was in his swag, but we used a whole canister of party pack on that dog, and each time we came in and we'd hit it. But what actually finally happened, it woke him. It woke him up because the dog used to go back to the swag, roll its head in it, trying to get the pepper spray off, and he rolled over and basically started to burn. So he actually got up and got control of the dog. But I mean, that was a vicious dog. It could have. It was a very dangerous breed. I can't remember the breed off the top of my head, but yeah, it was attacking people as they walked past. So, I mean, if we didn't have that, it would have probably got it and bitten us. But
Oh yeah, and pretty motivated. They can be quite bad. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
no, the old pepper spray. I am a fan of it, but I can see it being misused. But I mean, that's fine. You just legislate that if you do
Yeah,
misuse it, you're gone. Simple as that. So
yeah. Well, and that's a very good point too. And not that we probably have too many politicians listening, but yeah, it does have to be legislated well to
yeah,
get
and I
it
think it would be. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So. Mate, you got more confidence in politics than I do. Um,
yeah.
um,
No.
but, mate, we'll move on, and we want to touch on another subject and talking about deaths in custody. Mate, do you want to start off on that one?
Yeah, so I think what's brought this up recently, I think in the last 3 weeks, there's been 2 deaths in custody in the Northern Territory. And straight away, the term death in custody has this, I don't know, this inkling
Stigma.
about it that someone has done something wrong. And yeah, sometimes they might have, but they may not have. And I think my point and what I want to get across to everybody is, does anyone know in the public exactly what happened? And the answer to that is they don't. Nobody knows exactly what happened yet because the matter's under investigation. So um, what's occurred is that, and look, I have minimal, once again, I don't know because I wasn't there, but the media reports at this stage are, the first one was a few weeks ago. A young Aboriginal fella in Alice Springs was pulled up by security guards at the Coles complex in Alice for shoplifting. He'd stolen items down his pants. So as they're paid to do, the security guards have confronted him and tried to get him to return the items. The information we have is that some kind of he's assaulted them in some way, and some kind of altercation's taken place. It happened that a couple of police were present. It sounds like they were plainclothes police were present. I know one of them quite well. I'm not going to mention his name.
Well,
There's
his
been some.
name's
He's
already in
been.
the media, so
Hey,
his name's already in the
yeah,
media.
that's fine. I'm not going to mention it. I haven't seen it in the media. So he's been involved somehow. A person's been apprehended, lost consciousness. They've commenced CPR. He's gone to hospital and has been declared dead at Alice Springs Hospital. So the thing is, people, you can't just go, oh, we can't apprehend that person because he might just die on us. Police have to do their job. This is why it's so hard. It is a hard job because everyone is now jumping down going, well, they have to be held accountable and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if he's murdered the guy, yes, he'll be held accountable. And of course he will. We've seen that police are willing to charge their own. The other thing that I'm seeing is a big call for an external investigation to the actual police force itself. And I understand why people would argue for that because it gives what people like to think is the ultimate transparency. But I've been the subject of internal investigations, and I guarantee you, they're not on your team.
No, no.
They are investigating it, and they will put them. And the other thing is, the investigation itself is completely transparent. So, police in the Northern Territory, and especially like major crime detectives and coronial investigations, I mean, the coronial process in itself is a completely independent process. That matter goes through the coroner's office, and the coroner makes recommendations. And I mean, if you want to get noisy and protest stuff, why don't you do some homework and read back through some coronial findings that have been found by the coroner against the Northern Territory Police through history, and you'll see that that wasn't necessarily for the police one bit. In
Yeah.
fact, quite the opposite, absolutely damning at times on behalf of the coroner. So I don't have any issues with the matter being investigated independently within the NT police, because it's not like, oh, it's all right, mate, we'll sort it out for you. Those days are gone. That does
Yeah.
not happen. They will investigate every single bit. That everything they do is completely overseeable, and I'm telling you, it is. It's 100% transparent. It can be reviewed by anybody at any time, and they can just go, well, this is bullshit. We need to go down this line. You just can't not do it correctly, because the system will catch you.
Yeah.
And I mean, who would be motivated to do? You just find out what happened. It's a search for the truth. That's the whole idea of an investigation. And that matter will be put through the coroner. It will go through a coronial inquest, which will take a long time to get through. And I have no issue with that. That's how it needs to be. Now, the second one that's occurred, and I know less about it, but I know that it was actually in the custody of the Australian Federal Police from the airport. And it's, from what I can hear, it sounds like he's died in hospital some days later. Now, because he was taken into custody by the police and has passed away in hospital, it's now because the last dealings that he was as a free man were in custody. So the definition of a death in custody is if any person basically passes away within 24 hours contact to the police, or as a result of something that has occurred in contact with the police, then that becomes defined as a death in custody.
Yeah.
So a death in custody can be something as simple as somebody goes and commits suicide after they've been charged and bailed by the police. Now, how have the police done anything there? They've arrested a person, charged them, and bailed them to appear completely in accordance with law. But because the matter's happened within 24 hours of them being in police custody, the matter is now considered and investigated as a death in custody.
Yep.
All of these rules have come about to just show extreme transparency by the police, coming out of the report, the Black Deaths in Custody report from 1991. These are the recommendations that were carried out, and they're held all over the place. The fact is, policy kicks in against police very early on, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So don't think for a second police are hiding anything. Police get hung, drawn, and quartered all the bloody time. So, and sometimes I would say outrageously. So let's just wait and see. I'm not saying the copper hasn't done anything wrong. I'm not saying he's done anything right. I'm just saying I don't know, and neither do you. So, and neither does anyone listening. So you've got to let the investigation play out. That's the whole point of an investigation. It's just one of those things. We don't know. That's why there's an investigation.
That's right. Yeah, and mate, you're dead right there. People want to throw their 2 cents worth in, and they hear a bit of story here, and then they run with it. I mean, we never did that as investigators. You hear a story and you go, okay, you put that in that little box, and then you go and talk to somebody else and see what other stories you get.
Yeah.
And when all the stories, if the stories all start to align, then you know you're heading in the right direction. If they're completely different, then you got to go and speak to more and more people to try and ascertain which one's correct and which one's not. It's just one of those things, mate. And I'll just touch on.
Sorry, mate. Just before you continue there, I just want to make a point on what you just said.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever used to listen to was, I saw this person do that. I heard the person you're talking about say this. I smelt this. I felt this. I used to go off what I witnessed.
Yeah.
If you witnessed something or you were the victim of something, I didn't ask, so what do you think he meant by that? There was none of that shit. It was, I saw this. I heard this. It was anything that was detected by the senses of a person is what I wanted to extract. The other thing I did was, and this is how we all used to operate, I'd go, tell me what happened. I went in with no preconceived ideas. I was there to extract what happened from that person. How would I know what happened? I don't. I'm just the investigator. Yeah. It's my job to extract the information from the witnesses. So sorry, mate, keep going. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the whole point about that is you don't ask leading questions. You don't put words into their mouth. You don't put ideas into their head. They have to come up with it themselves. But mate, yeah. So talking about when police say, oh, have an external investigation, all that sort of thing. I just want to explain to people. And look, the comment was widely used as coppers up there. So in normal circumstances, you're charged with something. You're innocent until you're found guilty. it's just about the opposite way around. When you're a police officer and somebody comes and says something, you're guilty until proven innocent. A lot of the time, well, a lot of the times you feel like that.
That's
Um,
certainly the perception. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you also, as a police officer, you're held at a much higher level than society. So you're trained. You're supposed to be professional. All that sort of stuff. So that's what they also look at. We are held far more accountable than any average person, politician, anything like that, and they will throw the book at you if you stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
So
Even if it's not warranted sometimes, as recent bloody
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So
that was certainly putting the carriage before the horse, that was. But anyway. Yeah.
yeah. So and look, and people do need to understand that, mate. But otherwise, I think you actually explained that really well. And yeah, like just wait until the investigation's done, for crying out loud. All this shit, whether it's I mean, we've heard so much crap. The whole Brittany Higgins things, I hated it because there was so many people, media and all that, throwing their 2 cents worth in. Let the police do their fucking investigation and
Yeah.
then find out what happened.
Yeah.
But
How about you cannot comment with any level of authority if you don't know what happened.
exactly.
It's pointless. Like there is no point um, having any opinion whatsoever. The whole idea is I've got this. It's the old major crime unit stubby cooler. My father-in-law really likes it because on it it's got Northern Territory Major Crime Squad. Believe nothing, assume nothing, check everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually assume nothing, believe nothing, check everything. So basically, you don't assume a damn thing. You you go in completely blind, and in my favourite old term, with a high level of disinterest. Not uninterested. Uninterested means you're not doing your job. Disinterested means you're not interested in the outcome. You
Yeah.
have no interest in what the outcome is. I don't care what the outcome is. I'm here to find what occurred, and the outcome is what it is. So
Yep.
that's that saying. It's like you go in completely blind and you go, I don't know what happened. Let's find out. You tell me what happened. He did this, this, this. Who was there? Bang, bang, bang. Right, I got more witnesses. Where'd this occur? Oh, down at this pub there. Excellent. Go to the pub. How much CCTV have you got? This, this, this. Interview all the staff. The staff are normally sober. I would say they are sober all the time. So you've now got sober witnesses who witnessed some event and yet completely independent to the people involved. You've got CCTV, which is an eyewitness that doesn't have any opinion whatsoever. It just shows what occurred.
Yep.
But we also don't believe everything we see on CCTV because it can only show one angle. So we'll get as many different versions of that and the visibility as we possibly can. We'll then speak to every single witness we can. We'll look at all kinds of movements, any kind of phone records for threatening stuff back and forth, or any people trying to cover up what occurred. That'll all get looked at. All the phone records will get looked at. Phones will get seized. Text messages will get looked at. WhatsApp will get looked at. Everything gets looked at.
Yep.
From all of that, you then put all the evidence together and you compile what's called a statement of facts that outlines everything, and every claim made in that statement of facts will be backed up by evidence that is attached to that file. So there's no opinion in it whatsoever. It's like, we did an investigation and this is what we found. And
Yep.
if you don't agree with us, everything we've written down is in evidence. So, and that's where you put that matter to the courts, which are completely and utterly independent of the police, and they will go through, and are certainly not the friends of the police. I'll give you the drum.
Yeah.
And they will go through and analyse that evidence, and the matter will be put to a jury if it gets to that level, and the jury is the one who decides what happens. The judge is the one who decides what evidence is right and what evidence is wrong and explains the process to the jury. They go through everything and they come out from there. That's a criminal matter. In a coronial matter, they can look at further evidence because it's not just evidence that's admissible in a criminal investigation, but under a coroner's investigation, the coroner has the discretion to allow and disallow certain evidence, but that's completely able to be appealed and able to be reviewed at a higher level. So all of this, there's multiple levels of protection in this, through disinterested parties up through the chain of the coronial investigation, through the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals and all the rest of it. So everything can be reviewed at any stage, and everything that is claimed must be backed up by evidence, and the evidence has to be tested, and the evidence has to be lawfully obtained and all the rest of it. So there's a hell of a lot of checks and balances. And that's just, that's sort of mentioned both of them, the court, the criminal court side of things, and also the coronial investigation side of things.
Yeah, mate. I'm just going to touch on 2 points there that I want to really put a mention on, and that is the fact that independent witnesses are the ones you want to actually you're more likely to get the truth out of them. I always said when I was training people or anybody junior to me, if I was working in investigation, always said question the victim more than you do the offender. Because people will lie. Whereas independent witnesses, as if you can make sure they're purely independent, they are usually the most accurate because
Yeah,
people
well, they
will
got no
say
interest. They just repeat what they saw.
that's right. Yeah, and victims, unfortunately, will at times try to make themselves put in a better light. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I mean, every person does it.
Yeah,
So,
everyone's most interested in themselves.
yep, that's
That's
right.
their number one interest. Yeah.
So yeah, mate, that's something. Now, mate, we're going to move on. So the actual topic for today, 30 minutes into this episode, was the fact I want to talk about some search warrants because the thought came to me. I had this memory of some great search warrants over the years, and you do get some funny stuff. And mate, you happy if I start off with?
Yeah, no, rip into it.
All right.
I've
So
got a
this is
shocker.
this is this is early on. Dingle and I are working together, and anyway, I mean we were pretty junior at the time. We were working the TAC team anyway. We got this job where a guy had gone back into Kmart, no Target, or Target, wasn't it? That's what they used to call in Catherine, in the Oasis shopping centre there. And anyway, he tried to return a TV but didn't have a docket. Anyway, the staff thought, oh, this is a little bit funny. So they went through the CCTV footage for the last week and found that he
I was
actually.
involved in this. I know where this
Yeah.
is going. I was involved in this. Yeah, keep going.
And anyway, so he'd actually stolen this TV and walked out beside the beepers. So they've got him on that. So it's come to us. We didn't know who he was when Dingle and I are looking at this. And anyway, so we're showing it in the I think it was in the detective's office, or that was just in the Catherine police station there. And I'll give a shout out to Heather Donald because she walked in as
Oh,
we're
Heather
showing
Bell.
this footage and asking if anybody saw it. Actually, it might have even been the muster room, can't remember. But anyway, she's walked past and she's had a look and she goes, "That's such and such." She goes, "I know him anywhere," because he was a bit of a drug dealer around town as well. So anyway, we've gone, right. So then we've got Dingle and I have put a search warrant together, probably one of our first real official search warrants, back in that time. And for anybody listening, if you don't find what you're looking for at the search warrant, I believe it's a cartonable offence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, we've gone in, we've executed this search warrant. Yep, we found not one TV, but 3 TVs.
Oh, I thought it was more than that.
Was it? Oh, it might have been 4. I don't. Yeah, I thought it was
From
3.
memory, it was almost like they had a table made of them. There was the TVs came in boxes stacked. You know how they're thin, but they're tall. They're like a TV, so they're that
Yeah.
shape. And the boxes were
Oh,
lying on their backs, stacked up, and they had a
actually,
tablecloth over the top of them.
actually, you're right because what we could get them on was 3 stolen TVs.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. You're right. So yeah, we found multiple ones, but so then we had to get Target to go back through and have a look at their CCTV, but we could only pick up. I don't know. They had something where we couldn't match the serial numbers or something like that, so we could get them on 3 counts
yeah,
of,
yep,
of stealing, and we did him for obtained benefit by deception as well, which
yep.
is like fraud. And that was because he tried to go back and get a refund on a TV that was stolen because it didn't work. Now, the whole funny thing about that whole story is he took it to hearing because he had the firm belief that if he stole the TV, it was his right that it should work. So he had a right to get a refund on
Oh, geez, I love crooks. How
it.
stupid are some? It's just so good. I just love it. Yeah.
So as you can see, the result he lost that, but yeah, but that's why he took it to hearing, mate. He had the belief that if he stole a TV, it should work, and if not, he he could get a refund on it. So
Yeah. Now, just for those listening along, so search warrants, obviously you outline what you're looking for in the search warrant, but while you're searching for that, anything else that you find that's unlawful can be seized and becomes evidence, and you detect further offences while you're doing that. Now, there's a very fine line here. You can't use it as a fishing expedition. If you're looking for a TV, that doesn't really justify you searching through little tiny drawers looking for drugs and things like that, or checking the toilet cistern. But if you walk in and there's a big old bag of drugs on the table, you're allowed to seize that and go from there. And that's that test. And that comes out of what's called case law. So judges have thrown things out where police have just gone searching for anything. They've gone in looking for a TV that's, 70 inches wide and all the rest of it. So it's not going to be in the toilet system. So you've got to be searching for what you're looking for. And, I mean, everything's body-worn camera. You can't make this shit up. It's all on body-worn. And anyway, it was quite often that you wouldn't just walk out with the gear, whatever you were looking for. You'd find shitloads of stuff. And it was stolen property, drugs, bloody bags of cash that you knew was all obtained by tainted property, basically. So you'd quite often walk out with more work on than you probably wanted. And that was quite common, especially in the property crime world, where I'd worked for a fair bit, like all through my career, basically in detectives in regional areas. We were the property crime team for a lot of that. And then exclusively in Darwin, I was part of the property crime team for about 18 months. So, yeah, there was lots of that went on. It's speaking about funny stuff at warrants, this one, look, I'm going to preface this. This is pretty gross. This is pretty sick. It's by far nowhere near the worst search warrant story I've ever heard, which is a story for another person who we might even get on, I think.
Yeah.
He'd love to tell that story. And he was keen to come on, so I might have a yarn to him. But anyway, when I was in Katherine, part of that interstate drug squad, so we were a federally funded drug squad that sort of came in kind of involved with the intervention. So it was called the Substance Abuse Intelligence Desk, and it was based out of Katherine at that stage, and I think they had another one in Alice Springs.
Yeah.
And then eventually it got tacked in underneath the Drug and Organised Crime Squad in Darwin. It was all coordinated from there. But we were basically a local show, and we had so much work on, we just operated locally and did our own thing. Now, part of that federal funding came drug detection dogs. We had 2 drug detection dogs attached to us, and there were 3 of us, so 3 detectives and 2 drug detection dogs, and an intelligence officer, basically as part of that team. And anyway, we had a trip set up to Kununurra in WA to assist the local criminal investigation unit over there with some drug targets they had. So we went over to Kununurra, and the detective sergeant at the time was a real goer. So there wasn't a lot of relaxation going on. It was sort of 6 a.m. we're kicking a door and we'll knock off when we knock off. And there was quite a few nights there where it was 8, 9 o'clock before we even finished work. And it's bloody hot in Kununurra for anyone who's been there in November. So we were over in Kununurra, and I think it was the very first warrant. So we had a 5 a.m. briefing for a 6 a.m. entry. Anyway, Jesus, I do apologise for what I'm about to tell you. Being from the Northern Territory and the fact that we are in Western Australia, I was a senior constable at the time, so we had a stack, which is just a group of people who were going to breach the door. So it was going to be a forced entry and a rapid entry, but not tactical. There's no high level threat, but there was the threat of destruction of evidence. So we needed to get in quickly and apprehend the people inside the building, shut down the security, and then commence the search. Anyway, so we used the key to the city, which is just a big door rammer. WA coppers used that, smashed the door in. So there was two WA police, 2 NT police, and then the sergeants walked in. So the WA sergeant and then our sergeant, the NT sergeant. Anyway, forced entry, and oh Jesus, we've run in, and what we've seen was a female having sex or acting as the boy, basically, on what I thought was a half-clothed female on the bed, bent over. So I do apologise for this. It gets pretty rough. Anyway, so the female who was on top, she's pulled back, detached what was something that you wear around your waist and extends from there, and I'll let you keep that up to your own. We're not going to get too sassy here. My grandmother listens to this. Anyway, that's hit the floor, and she's run naked into a bedroom. So the WA boys have chased her. One's chased her, and the girl, in inverted commas, has run the other way. And she had a skirt on and a top. Anyway, wait a minute. Anyway, I run in. behind them, and they've apprehended the woman who was naked on top, and they've wrapped her in a blanket, and she's now sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket. So I'm standing in front of her just going, just relax. And obviously they're a bit shaken because this is 6 a.m. in the morning and they thought they were alone. So anyway, she's sitting on the couch a little bit hysterical. So I'm just calming her down. Now behind me was an enormous TV that I hadn't really paid any attention to. There was a show on, but I wasn't watching it. And the two sergeants have walked in and they're looking past me and they're going, oh, he can turn that shit off for one. And I've turned around and I'm just going to say it. And all I saw was a mustachioed mouth performing fellatio. And I was like, oh my God. So we turn off this homosexual porn happening on the TV screen behind us. I turn around and go, oh, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Anyway, by this, there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle, but not much in the other room. And then a bloke has come out in shorts and a T-shirt, handcuffed with the other two police, bringing him out to the couch. That was the recipient upon entry. So anyway, he's now sitting next to the female, and they're both a bit distressed, and they're both white as ghosts. Anyway, and they're sitting on the couch, and all this is going on, and anyway, we're all a bit dumbfounded. It's 6 a.m. We'd had a big trip the day before, and we had an early start, so it was like bloody hell. Welcome to WA. And anyway, we've gone through and searched the place, and we've found just shitloads of drugs, lots and lots of methamphetamine, cocaine, lots of cannabis. And anyway, that it was just the entry. But then we walk out the back, and obviously we just assist with the search, and we go out we're searching the bedrooms methodically. And we get out to the back room, and it can only be described as what I would call an absolute sex dungeon. There was strap-ons and dildos and things all around the walls, hanging off the wall. There was a bench on the ground that was clearly used for something. Anyway, it was just a den. I do massively apologise for the two ordinary cops' dissent. But as far as a search warrant, that's how we go. So obviously we've conducted ourselves professionally inside the search warrant. We've wrapped it up. They've both been taken into custody by the WA guys. An arrest team's taken them away because we're moving on to the next search warrant. So we've conducted a debrief. And, the debrief's conducted by the Western Australian Detective Sergeant. And he's all right, okay, so what have we found? What have we got? We got this, we got that, no trouble. Anyway, any comments from anyone else? And I think it was my sergeant. He's turned around and gone, what kind of fucking show are you running in WA? It's like, yeah, we do apologise for the depravity of Kununurra, but I mean, that was capable of occurring anywhere and probably did, but it's just so happened to be our first experience in Western Australia. So it did make for very, very funny banter with the boys back at the station when we got back home. But as far as the wildest shit you've seen entering a search warrant, I mean, I've had violent entries to search warrants where people wanted to fight and all the rest of it. I've had search warrants where I've executed a lot. It would be tens and tens and tens of. It wouldn't be hundreds. It would be tens of search warrants.
Yeah,
and they can be everything from "G'day, how you going? Got a search warrant. We need to come in." Yeah, you're right, Dale. Come in and have a look around. I know he's up to no good, but and it can be that low level to. I've used tactical operators to breach entry and then very violently have to arrest males inside the building who are fighting back and going for weapons and sort of everything in between. So, but as far as just funny and just loose, that was definitely up there. That was probably the most memorable search warrant, just for the depravity of the whole situation.
Now, Damo, mate, I'm just going to throw in. That was not your first experience with gay porn, though, was it?
Oh, dearie me. Yeah, no, that was quite funny. That was we had a search warrant that had been conducted out at, I won't mention the community. It was a very small Aboriginal community, and it was one of the people there. Anyway, it was basically a complaint of indecent assault on an adult male by another adult male, and we'd searched his premises for things, and he'd made claims of. I think we were looking for this particular pornographic movie that this fella had been getting shown by this guy, and he didn't like it. He was like, "This is homosexual porn. I'm not into that." So, anyway. We had to sort of comb through it because there were some intel reports that this guy might have been into child abuse material as well. So anyway, I mean, this is a while ago. So this is a VHS, and we're playing it in the CIB office inside the police, in the old CIB office when it was inside the police station at Katherine. Anyway, so I've got it on, and we play. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So we hit fast forward, and it's just, anyway, it's funny you mentioned Heather Bell because she walked through and she goes, oh my God, what are they? Oh, you're watching. Oh, they're boys. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. So anyway, word spread that he had. What's Barb up to? Well, he's in the CIB office reviewing gay porn in fast forward. Looking for child abuse material. Thank God we didn't find any child. There was no child abuse material, but there was definitely homosexual porn, which is not my thing. Sorry, not my thing.
And then,
So yeah, we were fast forwarding through that, and geez, it did create a few laughs, but it had to be done. But
oh,
anyway,
exactly, mate. And I think I threw you in it as well, because you got paid out a bit by Mr. Anthony Henrys.
yeah. Look, we don't need to go right into it all. It was, a few things that happens, but yeah, no, it was. I mean, these things happen. These are some of the jobs, but like everything, we used a lot of humour, and a lot of it was at my expense. But I was the one who got the job, and that was how it rolled. So
Oh dear.
yeah,
Um, oh mate, yeah. No, I've for some reason I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I always seem to find the sex draw. And
yeah.
yeah, I've seen that one where they had a sex swing and all the other bits and pieces you could ever dream of. And yeah, it's not a pretty sight a lot of the time, and especially when you know some of the people that are using this stuff, because
Oh,
obviously, yeah,
yeah. Look, unfortunately, as a police officer, when you are carrying out search warrants and carrying out your role, you definitely see the dirty underwear.
yes,
So there's not a lot of secrets when you're searching through people's houses for evidence. You
yeah,
find everything, and a lot of it isn't necessarily evidence of criminal conduct, but it's evidence of other conduct. So, yeah, no, it's pretty well. You definitely wear gloves, and a lot of the time you wear a mask,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's for a
yeah.
reason. So, yeah, and I know that a lot of police will relate to that, and a lot of people in the public wouldn't have a clue. So,
No,
it's all
that's right.
part of the job.
And look, what happens in that search warrant and what the police officers deal with stays within the police. Is none of that
Absolutely.
information is released.
And I would never mention any of these people involved, and I
No,
still would never do it. I'm, approaching 3.5 years out of the police force, and I, I took my job seriously, and I was entrusted with information that's not my
yeah,
information to give out. We're allowed to share the stories anonymously, but I would never, ever talk. It doesn't matter what they've done. It's none of my business. They weren't breaking the law. People are entitled to do what they like in their own home. So
yeah,
as long as it's not victimising anyone, it's not unlawful. It's fine.
yeah.
So even when they're breaking the law, it's not my job to, create a podcast and make myself look better by running someone else down. It's not going to happen.
No,
So I think we preface all that by saying that, yeah, sure, we got to see some wild stuff, and I know exactly who the people are, but they probably don't know who I am,
no.
and
And there's
it's
no
no
one
one's
well,
business.
anybody could identify who we've spoken about. So
No, and I never would. It's
no,
just it was not the point. There's no point of doing that. That's not what we're here for.
no, no, exactly
So
right.
yeah, but we can still enjoy the humour. It was bloody funny.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, that's part of the dark humor as well. I mean, because you do see some wild stuff and stuff that nobody else gets to see, and that's why people, when they sit there and say, you basically get a front seat to the best show on earth,
Oh yeah.
because it's nothing but action.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And if there are any nurses in general, but any emergency nurses or doctors out there that have seen some very funny wild shit come through the front counter, and I know you have. Don't even try and tell me you haven't, because I've brought a lot of it there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we want to hear your stories, and of course, anonymously, we just want to hear what you have to say about like wild stuff that's come through the front counter. Because I
yeah,
know for a fact there's been some wild stuff come in the front counter of emergency departments. So, it's all the same thing, and there's a lot of humour involved. Once again, it's never at the expense of the people. The identity of the people is irrelevant. It's just humanity. It's just having a laugh at the flaws of humanity. That's all it is.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And in saying that, mate, I think we've mentioned this one time before, but dark humor, nurses are the worst.
Oh, so bad.
Yes,
I don't
yeah,
know. Paramedics are pretty bad too at times, but I think
yeah.
nurses take the cake. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well,
don't get me
mate, maybe
wrong.
we could have a bit of a competition between them both, but maybe we shouldn't.
Oh, I'll tell you who would give them a run for their money: are female sex crimes detectives. They are
Yeah,
loose.
they are very
Some of
yes,
that
that's
shit, their
true.
humour's out of control. But it has to be. They're dealing with a very serious, very serious area of investigation.
Mm,
But yeah, they had some pretty good humour to cope, so they were pretty good. But no, I do think nurses take the cake.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
and they're bloody tough too.
Oh,
Jeez,
good people, mate. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Anyway, mate, I reckon that might just about finish us up. They're about 50 minutes in.
I reckon it definitely finishes up. It's only downhill from here. We probably should pull the pin.
It's not going to go well.
No.
Yeah, no, mate. And like you said, we're never ending of stories. Yeah, I'm just we got to stop sometime.
Well, like we've said many times before, when we start talking, they flood back. If you just ask me in the street, tell me a funny story, I go, oh, shit, I don't know, I can't remember anything. But once they start coming back, you go, oh, remember that? Like, yeah. So we've said it many times before, but yeah, you sort of just stuff comes in and other things fall out, but you sort of do remember everything. But
Yeah, definitely, mate. Hey, mate, before we go though, I was going to give out a shout out to our mate Peter Maniatis, only because he sponsors Mental Awareness Foundation. They had a fundraiser last Friday, and he bought a table, to bring a lot of his friends and all that along. As it's all a donation to raising mental awareness and all that sort of stuff. And so he invited me to come and sit at the table, and it was a great day. The beer never stopped flowing. So it was just with a good group of guys. But I'd tell you what, on speaking to the head of the foundation and all that sort of thing, like just great people, and they had some of the ex Broncos come in and have a talk and all that sort of thing, some funny stuff, and but also serious stuff, and it's about raising awareness for mental health. So yeah, big shout out to Pete for supporting that for all these years, because he basically put his money in there and to help out a good cause. So and I think from that event they raised over 66,000 so far. Like that was during that event. So
yeah,
that's
really good stuff.
It is.
You know, he's a friend of the podcast. He's a friend of ours. He's a bloody good bloke, Pete. So yeah, definitely good on you, Pete. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mate, I reckon that'll finish us up. Unless you got anything else to say.
I bloody well done. I think we need to leave it at that.
You've done your dash, haven't you? That search warrant.
I can see my grandmother blushing. This is not good.
Cake.
Yeah, that's about that. Yeah.
All
all good. We'll be back next week.
All right. We'll see you then.
All the best.